Alabama's 6th District Republican Spencer Bachus appears in position to become chairman of the House Financial Services Committee later this month when those committee assignments are handed out. He joins us here in the studio today. Thank you very much for being with us today. A different world when you return back to Washington now with Republicans making major gains in the Senate but taking control of the House. Tax cuts, spending seem to be two things that the president said he wanted to reach across the aisle and work with House Republicans and Republicans in the Senate on. Is that possible in this climate?
Well, Rick, we already know what the president's going to propose. His deficit reduction commission is going to report December the 1st, and one of the worst guarded secrets is they're going to recommend tax increases and spending cuts as a compromise. And we're simply in the House not willing to increase taxes. We think the problem is too much spending, too much government, and you don't address excessive spending by increasing taxes. You just cut spending, and we can cut spending without draconian cuts.
Let's go over to the Bush-era tax cuts that are set to expire. There has been talk that there may be a temporary extension tacked onto that. What do you anticipate? What would you like to see happen that could feasibly happen in these closing days of this year?
Well, any tax increases, and that's what we have if we don't extend the cuts, will restrict economic growth, and that means job creation. We should not be raising taxes in a recession. In fact, with the federal government spending so much money today, we don't need to raise taxes at the federal level any. And we really ought to, that'll be our first test of whether we got the message Tuesday night from the American people to reduce spending and tighten our belts.
When you talk about that, when you talk about those Bush-era tax cuts in particular, you know, working out between the two bodies and what the White House is going to be urging as well, do you think it may ultimately be a temporary extension at this point, or do you think that there's going to be a passage of one form or another of those Bush-era tax cuts?
Well, you know, when it comes to the estate taxes, people need to do planning 5 and 10 years out. I would hope that that we give some permanence to it. Although, you know, we'll extend them. We want to extend them. I hopefully will do it permanently because I think taxes are high enough now, and really I think it will be a test of our resolve.
You've talked a good bit about also if and when you are moved into the position of chairmanship for financial services, you've talked a good bit about the regulations that have been put in place in Washington dealing with the financial industry. Do you see those? Do you advocate rolling some of those back, weakening some of those at this point?
Well, what we've done is we just added a new bureaucracy, and instead of making the regulations that we have work, we're creating a whole new bureaucracy and putting $600 million in the creation of a new agency overnight. What we ought to be doing is combining the agencies and instead of hiring more federal workers, just make sure that those on the job do their job. We all agree on consumer protection, but you know, today you have over 200,000 federal workers that are supposed to be protecting Americans from consumer fraud, and you know, and I don't think they're doing a great job.
Let's talk about state politics for a moment. You were here Tuesday night during our coverage talking about the federal elections, but major gains. I mean, you've been a long-time Alabama Republican. Gains that you've never seen any of the other, neither have any of the other long-time Alabama Republicans seen in the Alabama legislature. When you were here, I noticed that you spoke briefly with GOP Chairman Mike Hubbard when you were walking out and say ethics reform. And he said we're working on that. That's something that you really hope to see state Republicans deal with in the coming days, correct?
Oh, that's right. Governor Riley, the congressional delegation in Washington, Mike Hubbard and the Alabama delegation, we think ethics reform is the #1 issue. And I hope that the governor does call a special session. We've now got the votes to get it passed. You had 60 Democrats and 43 Republicans in the House, the Alabama House, before the election. There were 2 vacancies. Today you've got 62 Republicans and 43 Democrats. So you've got a wide majority. In the Senate, you took about 22 Democrats, 14 Republicans. We've now flipped that around, and you've got 22 Republicans and 12 Democrats, with one undecided.
Congressman Spencer Bachus, thanks so very much for being with us today. We will talk to you again in the weeks and months to come.